Hey, Trudy, can we sit out in trouble?
Right.
I guess if you want.
I figured to.
So I get pretty.
Yeah, sit and face this way. Right there, Mark, so you're facing this, and then we go. Watch your mouth.
Did you step inside there and see like
So we have like
the wood?
100%. Second word.
Looks like we almost do it. I think you guys.
Wonder where my name is.
Pull a chair up.
Jacob and
We
get the special
facing us.
Right.
what?
You might want to be facing us at that table.
Oh, Mark's okay.
Jenna's,
Jack.
Jacob's more the barista. Jenna's more.
David, you need to.
You chair?
Here.
Oh, you got one?
There's one up, there's still one here, David. There's still one up here if you want to come up.
Okay.
Here's just gotten.
All right, well, Pat and I will hold the fort down over here.
Yeah.
Between the
The tavern.
hammer, everybody just wanted to come.
Yeah.
And the new little market.
So are you gonna be the note taker and all that?
The coffee shop.
This might be a good.
So I'm gonna be taping it. Well, at least in this one.
Taping it as well, okay.
Now, we are going to be running this on YouTube. You can't participate anymore, you know, unless you meet one of the 3 requirements, but in case there are people that were not aware of that,
Look at all the new
or
general
wanted
public
to
people.
watch it, or watch it later, we are.
There was only 1 minute, you could only talk for 1 minute.
Okay. All right, everybody, we're gonna go. It's 1 o'clock. We're trying to do this burn through this as quickly as we can. Trudy,
Bill,
what?
yeah, let me get the recording started first.
So does he need a mic?
Oh.
Does he need a mic? Share mic.
You ready?
Okay, we're recording here.
All right, here we go. Trudy, you can do the roll call on your own there. You don't have to.
Yeah, I got it all right.
Okay, public comment, we have Colleen. Colleen, you want to say something now? All right.
That'd be great, because I have to get to work, so, thanks a lot. And first of all, I love the work you're doing as a council. Thank you so much for all of your volunteer time on behalf of the county. It's great, thank you.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Colleen Christensen. I'm a resident of Sutton's Bay Village, and I'm a representative on the village council. And I'm here for 2 reasons: to ask this council to please start a discussion about relocation of the Sutton's Bay recycling site from the school to an industrial area or somewhere away from neighborhoods. And the second thing is to make this a goal for 2022 for the Solid Waste Council to provide another location. And this request is based on continual opposition from residents in the neighborhoods that are adjacent to the school. I don't live in that neighborhood, but I know there's plenty of opposition there about the noise from that site. So there's some history here with one of our council reps, Mike Long. I know he's talked with some members of this committee. And I think you have some of that on your record, so I won't go into all that. But just wanted to ask you too, what you need from us. Do you need a letter from our village council to begin this discussion, or do you need letters from our residents from those neighborhoods that have been sending the letters to us instead? And then my final question is, who on this council should we follow up with about this topic?
Bill, I have a question for you though. Is it the noise during people dropping off recycling, or is it the noise of when it gets picked up?
Pretty much pickups and dumping and litter. It's very deep. There's a lot of opposition, lots of details to it. So I don't think I could fairly represent all of it right now. But it's certainly the pickup with the trucks. That's a big part of it.
And you mentioned an industrial location. Is there a place in mind that
I
village
don't
council has?
have any recommendations at this time, but I'm here to maybe start a discussion about this with your group, and possibly one of our council reps could meet with one of your people and we could talk about this and see how we could resolve it. How we could explore a new site.
Mark, can you just be quieter when you go over there?
No, it won't really work.
Are you the guy with the truck?
Not city color trucks. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's busy, it's a busy spot.
Colleen, what we really need from you is a new site. And you represent the village, and the village has an industrial site, has a sewage plant. And you should work with your people to figure out how that could be adapted as a recycling site.
So is that your response today?
That is
We need to find the site?
that is something you said, what do you need from me? So I would say you should explore that and explore that and find out what could be done with that site.
And how does it usually work with your group for other locations? Do you ask that specific area to find the site, or is it this committee that identifies potential sites? I mean, is that typical for somebody to have to find the site?
Just a point of order, this is public comment, so generally we don't interact during public comment. It's your chance to make your comment to this board. I would suggest we could put it on as a new item for business if you want to further the discussion today. I know you do have to get back to work, that's the only drawback.
I expected it to be public comment, and I just expected to say that, and then I'm sure that you would have follow-up discussion at some point and contact us. So I didn't expect there to be a conversation. I was surprised, but it's nice talking to you.
I think we all have suggestions, so that's all my.
Great. Thank you.
All right, staff comments.
Okay, several things for you. First, Kathy White Jessica has resigned from the Solid Waste Council. That came in last week, so there is one opening. I know that Laurel in the administrator's office is already working and contacting people, whether they're interested to continue on boards and committees for next year, or perhaps be interested in other committees that might have open spots. So Laurel will be working on that.
And can she be replied to via email and just reply to what she sends to you if you would like to be considered?
Yes, you just reply back to Laurel. And in some cases, the applications have to be updated because they're so old. People have served on committees for quite a few years and asking for updated applications. So a couple other things. I'm going to start from the end of what you see on the agenda. The recycling grant, I think we've been doing pretty well on that. Thank you to everyone who's been out doing the surveys. I know that is, takes some time to get out to those sites and talk with people and so forth, but that's really helpful. I did email Cassandra Ford, who was working with us on that grant, to find out, how are we doing? Do we need more surveys, or are we done yet? And she is off this week, so I won't have an answer till next week on that. And then the next step of that would be sending out the card. We're working on that card right now. Our biggest issue at the sites was the bag recycling. And we were gonna send a card out on that, and I talked to her and I said, that might be what the survey is showing, but I don't feel that is our biggest problem. Our biggest problem is the junk and stuff that people are leaving outside, and that doesn't show up on the surveys. So we revised that, so they're doing a card on don't leave materials outside, a big circle with an X through it. This is not allowed at our sites, and that will be mailed out again to all of our households. And that those costs, we pay for those costs, but then they're reimbursed through the grant. So we'll be doing one more mailer of that and kind of wrapping up that recycling grant then. I think the grant has been beneficial. Would I do it again if we had to do it over? I don't think so. I don't know if this has helped us enough to tackle the issues that we have at our sites. So that's just my opinion. Then going to the collection events, the household hazardous waste and electronics, those have been going pretty well. Our next one is Monday, September 13th at the shopping town. We're running it from noon to 5:30. First time ever we're doing it during the week. One of the reasons I wanted to do that is because our staff is always working those Saturday collections. And I thought, well, that's kind of hard in summer, whether we start them in spring or we do them later in the fall. It's that we're busy. We're all busy, weddings and whatever. And so we're trying this, and so far the signups look pretty good. The early afternoon is full. So we're now looking at mid-afternoon and hitting people after work. So
You said Monday the 12th?
Monday, the 13th of September.
That's my
September.
third wedding anniversary.
Is it really?
Wow, yeah.
Oh, happy anniversary.
It
early.
is, yeah. Household hazardous waste.
Yes, and electronics and that one. And the reason I wanted to try that also is we've done tire recycling on 2 Fridays already, and those have worked very well. People want to get their stuff there, they get in there, and we do have a lot of people who are retired, or they get someone else to bring their stuff, so we're gonna try it, whole staff out of the office. It still means that we'll have to be at the event till probably about 6 PM, and then haul everything back here, so it's still kind of a long day for staff, but it frees us up on the weekend. And our contractors also wanted to try it, 'cause everybody wants Saturday. And they work all throughout the state and in other states as well. So we are limited with our choices when we stick to Saturday. The tire recycling event went pretty well, although we had about 150 tires that didn't show up for that day. I was surprised at that, very surprised. And we did have some people come through who said they had more, and I said, we've got openings, go back and get them if you want. And they did. They went back and brought the tires back, wrote some checks. I threw it into our little stash and turned it in, so we still could have taken some more tires. I've been asked if we're gonna do it again this year, and I'm not sure. We'll see, I gotta check with the contractor and see about possible dates. And then the other event that we held, which didn't get any press, we did what I call mobile tire event. We had 3 properties that had a lot of tires on them, and we worked with ERG, and we set it up where these 3 property owners had to pay the $1 per tire plus supply the labor to get the tires off their property and into the semis. We had some people to staff them, but they had to haul these. And so we hit one down in Elmwood Township, got that farm picked up on a Friday night, and then came up north of Sutton's Bay and hit one there Saturday morning. And then there was another gentleman north of there that brought his tires down to that site. He had actually bigger tires than what he reported, so it took up more space in the 2, we had 2 semis than we thought. But filled up 2 semi truckloads, and we've gotten a couple more calls from people who have hundreds of tires on their property and want to participate. So I think we've hit on something there, is how to pick up these tires on these properties. But we definitely need them to bring their labor to do it. And it's still costly. It's still a good amount of money to have those semis brought up here, 2 days of having the contractors up here and then taking it back.
And are there grants available to continue doing that mobile?
We didn't get a grant for that. We got money from the tribe. And one of the properties that we serve is a tribal member. So I'm planning on writing another grant for the December cycle and put in there that we did help out one of the tribal members. We probably only took out about 25% of the tires on that property, if that. Yeah, here's the problem. People say, well, I have about 300 tires. And then there's a program on the state's website that will calculate how many tires, if you give them the length, width, and height of the pile, and then you have to know about how long they've been there, because they'll settle. You have to know if they're loosely thrown on the pile, or if they've been stacked, or if they've been interlaced. And then it will give you the calculation of the number of tires. So when I was told about 1,200 tires, I did the formula, then I called the owner back and said, okay, I need you to go out and give me better measurements than what I get from the aerial. And when he called me back with the measurements, he said, oh yeah, the inner part of this huge pile was all stacked. And I thought, oh no, that's more tires. So we came up with over 7,000 tires.
Oh,
whoa. Yeah, from an estimate of 1,200.
How over a period of time did they put those seven?
Well, that's the other part, years and years. And then he said the problem is people have seen it, the neighbors have reported to them that people have been backing their trucks up and throwing tires in there. So they've got cameras and things now. I said, we're gonna help and you're gonna pay, you've gotta do something. So this is, again. So the state allows grants, go back to Bill's question, the state allows grants for cleanups of those properties. But the tires have to be on there before, I think it's 1991. Maybe it's even earlier than that. And if they're not, then they put a lien on the property for the cost of the cleanup plus any improvement in value that there is to the site. well, who's going to do that? Who's gonna want to put a lien on their property for that? So that's where we're not able to help through the state's grant program. And that's why we went after 2% funds with the tribe, and they've been really good with us.
But that's not a really big number, the 2%. I mean, did it cover?
It didn't cover it all. You know, it was $10,000, and then we charged $1 per tire, and then we still had to take some out of our recycling program. So,
Remind me, where do the tires go? What,
they go down to a processing facility. They have to go to a licensed processing facility, and ERG has one that they use quite frequently, and they get chipped up. And then if they're good enough, they can be reused. Some of them still end up in the landfill. Some of the tires, I should have taken some pictures, some of the tires that we got at the collection at Groom Lake were unbelievable. They were falling apart. They were on old rusty rims. I mean, they look like they've been buried for 50 years.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
So that's an update on that. I think we continue on with the tire recycling. People are really liking it. And I had someone comment at the collection, well, you should be just about done with tires in the county now, right? And I said, no, not at all. We wish.
Well, I
Okay.
just want to say, thank you for doing those, because that in itself, if we've done nothing else this year, we got 7,000 tires out of this county in one day. That's phenomenal. That's a great thing.
Good job.
And actually, we didn't get that whole pile. So we're still gonna take more, but
We know where they're at now.
yeah. So the Pop Road recycling site is going slowly, and I know people want to see it up and running. It is on the Township Planning Commission, Leland Township Planning Commission meeting for, I want to say it's this Thursday night. It's on their website. I checked this morning. I think it's this Thursday night for final approval. So hopefully that goes through. But then the next step is going to be something that we're, hopefully it's the township that's gonna take the next step, is to bid out the work for the site, because it needs a new entrance, it needs gravel and everything in there. And we have put in about $13,000 in engineering work at that site already, not counting staff time, all the hours spent working and reviewing and having meetings and so forth. So we've put quite a bit into it already. We don't have a site yet. And there are people in Leland who would like that Leland site out of there now. That's creating a little bit of issue too, as far as the access and so forth.
You're talking about the one in by the fish. Which Leland site you're talking about?
In Leland down on Oak Street, that temporary site that was put in.
Yeah, it's right down by the,
Marina.
marina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, cameras. We have worked on and off for the better part of a year trying to get cameras at these sites. Tried trail cameras. First off, with COVID, so many things could not order. Or we could get the camera and we couldn't get the solar battery powered system. And so we finally were able to I said, let's just order one, let's try it out. So ordered one, got it set up in Cedar, used it for a couple days, used the solar pack, which we did get to charge it, and fully charge the battery, and now the camera doesn't work. So that did not go over well. And so I went to the administrator and I said, I'm fed up with this. We spend the majority of our money on these recycling sites. We're gonna have to look at doing a better job of surveying them and taking care of these issues. Because I, for one, am tired of getting the questions and the calls and the emails, and people are upset, and we keep going around and around in a circle. We don't have a good answer for them. So I thought I had a solution. Contacted a company in Traverse City, met with the supervisor in Elmwood at their site. That was gonna be our test site, because they need a building, electricity, and the internet. And this was gonna be surveillance, big cameras like you see on the corners of banks that are set up, and gave me the price. It was pretty reasonable, I felt. Then we found out that the township had stopped the internet service there about a year ago or so. So that's $100 a month to pay for internet service. That's not in my budget, and I don't know if the county would agree to paying for internet service at these sites. So I don't have an answer on these cameras. We could go back and try trail cameras again, but the other problem is that we have to look at staff time to review these cameras. Because we would be uploading them all to like the cloud. So that, I'll stop at that point. That kind of runs into item A under new business. So I'll just stop at that point for an update and then talk some more when we get to the next part.
Okay, you're all done?
Yes.
Okay, consideration of the agenda, we are gonna cross off C under new business, because that's Marcia's thing and she's not here.
I guess because you're still on staff comments or just going over it.
You wanna talk to her about that?
One thing, they just asked me to show you guys this picture and I'm just doing as they asked. Solon Township's looking at the plan, which I know you already know, of canceling it because of the trash that's left there all the time. They just asked me to show you the picture.
Yep, I saw that one before.
No, I didn't see. They just said it's an ongoing cleanup.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's all that hazardous waste.
Yeah. We were there.
Oh, I didn't know what.
I think what
Who's seen
happened
what?
there is somebody missed their hazardous waste appointment on Saturday, because that occurred right after that, like the next day, and I bet that that's what they did, is took their stuff there and locked it, instead of bringing it to Golden Lake School on Saturday.
We had a longtime Suttons Bay resident, the name, there was addresses on the boxes, and he looked at it and said, woman lost her husband a year ago, and it really looked like they just cleaned out a garage, and there was all this stuff, and it was brought there. And he said, I'm gonna go home and call her. We don't know what happened from that, but.
We sent you the photos and the addresses.
Oh, and the problem on that is we can only follow up on what we have addresses for.
Right.
And I had one woman contact me and she was very, very nice, but said, I am a devout recycler and I did not leave that stuff there. I would not do that with any of my stuff. And it's possible that the envelope, stuff fell out, it got blown out, and then it ended up, somebody just set it in the box that was there. So she got the letter, but we don't know that.
From that stuff, the very recent hazardous waste.
It was from a different site. So once in a great while, we have somebody call on the letter that we send, but usually we don't. So I don't know how much of an impact they're having.
Okay, so what about trying to do cameras at the
Can I
Cedars?
jump you back to the agenda?
Sure.
We got off a little bit. You were gonna approve the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the agenda with the one amendment.
Support.
Everybody ready, all in favor? Anybody see a conflict of interest? Consideration of the March minutes,
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the minutes as written.
Support.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright, under unfinished business, we have, wait a minute, we're going on to new business, correct? We don't have anything.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
New business conditions, the site issues, and you're gonna talk more about cameras, is that what you're gonna?
Well, let me just expound on this a little bit, is that, like I said, under staff comments, I'm really tired of these phone calls and these emails. We are not giving people answers, and I don't have answers for them.
Correct, but
We're trying to do something with cameras. Cedar, I was contacted by one of the Cedar board members by an email. I've not responded yet. Just got back in the office. I was off last week. They are the only contract that expires at the end of this year. We don't have much time left with them, and I don't think they're going to want to renew that site. So that's something we need to keep in mind. We definitely have a problem with the Sutton Space site. My staff, when they were up at Northport doing surveys up there, that wasn't on our list to do surveys, and they said, well, let's just go do a few of them. And they were surprised at the amount of stuff left outside in the garbage. I think it's really bad this year. Mark can comment on that or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just really, really bad this year. And I don't know what the solution is, but if we're gonna go with cameras, we've gotta figure something better out.
Does Cedar
And
have
it's going
internet?
to cost money.
I
I
get,
wanna let you know that, but probably 3/4 of this recycling money goes to these sites. And if we're not taking good care of them, why would the communities want them, I guess is my feeling after seeing this and hearing these complaints. We do the hazardous waste and electronics and tires, sure they like it, is we leave the site perfect when we leave. There's nothing left there, some ways everything's gone. And the recycling sites either need to have supervision and more pickup and more cleanup, or cameras or something, I don't know, but we definitely need, I think as a council, you need to come up with some direction and tell us what you wanna do.
well, how about, you need internet access, how many sites could have internet access? Cedar wouldn't have
Well,
internet.
they all could if we paid for it, and here's the other thing, is if we paid for a site, other sites, which may be close to their village or township offices, they may say, well, pay our internet bill now, I mean, kind of getting into a sticky situation there, but on the other hand, we do need to just take better care of these sites wherever they're going to be.
It seems like they're worse in the summer. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
So I wonder how much of it's seasonal?
Some, but not all of them, certainly. What if we had a one day? That would be, you'd be overwhelmed though. I mean, if you're emptying Cedar 4 or 5 times a week, you couldn't bring enough volume bins to, no.
Could be a rough go.
Yes,
The landfill is open now, they can do that, 5 days a week, you can drive to the landfill and you have to pay, but you can get rid of your stuff, you know? But I think what happens at these sites, a lot of this stuff is people in their mind think that someone can reuse it. Well, if I leave it here, somebody might want it, they will take it. And sometimes it's not, sometimes it's old ironing boards, and we drive through, every time we're over in Cedar, we do a drive-by to see what junk has been left behind in Cedar, and there is always something. There was a bunch of kids' toys a few weeks ago, there was a foam, looked like a snowmobile seat somebody left behind.
By chairs.
A lot of chairs, so people are cleaning their garages, maybe in the spring, and I'll just throw it down at recycling, and there is just, every time there's a pile of junk left behind. Sometimes it's hidden out behind, and sometimes it's left right out front, but I can tell you, because Pat was very kind, but it's not going well at Cedar Board, and if the vote were tonight, they would not be reconvening this contract, they're tired of it. It's just a junk pile, and it's just too bad. I think that, I guess personally, if we had cameras working and a few people started getting stung with a big fine for leaving that stuff behind, I think people would feel better. I think even the board would feel better. And I think it would come to a stop, because it'd be out there that people are getting caught and fined.
Judy, what about a car dash cam? You know, those things, so you park a car there with a camera inside the car pointed so it would be in the right place, running off the car battery, and is that?
I have no
Who would
idea.
have
I have a
card?
question.
Never heard of them.
Do we have the ability to fine them, or will the county fine them if we?
They'll get fined.
I checked with the prosecuting attorney's office and the sheriff's office, we've got several emails, so we have to post what law is being violated, which we don't have that yet. You guys approved those signs a long time ago, but we didn't put them up because they're on the cameras. That the sheriff's office will require some type of proof. So let's say Melinda's there and takes a picture and sends it to the sheriff's office, they're gonna want her as a citizen to sign a form saying she witnessed it, and some citizens won't do this. However, when I asked them, well, what if the county owns the cameras and has them and can give you the pictures that we took, and they said that will work. Because the sheriff's office will write the ticket once we can prove
I
it.
just wondered if it was
And
like
then it
a
goes to
lit,
the prosecuting attorney's office and they follow up on it to get
I wondered
fines.
if it was a littering thing, or, because doing all this, we can't prosecute them, it's pointless, because I'll tell you, I work in a business, run a landfill. People will just throw shit at my gate. They'll throw shit at the entrance to my gate. These people are lazy. They are not thinking about recycling. They're thinking I'm going home and I got a bunch of junk and I'm just gonna toss it out here because half these gas stations can be closed and come in the morning with a pile of junk next to their dumpster. It's just the mentality. It's like if you can have the police go by it a couple of times a week and police it if they caught somebody or cameras, or the other option is you just pay someone to pick it up every day. And you just, it's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But you just hire someone to go every day and clean up your site.
Well, and that is an option for you to consider, so if you want to look at a contract to do something like that, or open up the contract with American Waste, GFL, call you GFL now?
Same, American Waste, GFL company.
I think it makes the problem worse personally, because then people say, well, it's okay, you know? But yeah, they'll just.
Well, you can do the other things, but I'm saying in the short term, tomorrow's problem, if you want to keep these places open, is you hire someone to go clean them up while you're trying to figure out the other thing.
Yeah, we had a same issue with the recycling. Come in on Monday morning and there'll be surfboards leaning up against the building and couches and mattresses. We put up a number of cameras. We put up some dummy cameras too, but we put up some real ones. And the problem virtually went away. Like, and we posted a couple of signs, $500 fine. We don't know if that's true, if the county would actually do that, but we've never had to prosecute anyone. Just because there's a big sign up, says no dumping, you're being watched on surveillance, you have to let them know that you're watching them, right? And so I think that the cameras, even if the places that don't have electricity, they sell them right on the internet, they're a little bit less money, not much actually. The dummy cameras that just look like a globe, you put those things up, and people come in and they'll see it sitting there and turn around.
Did you contact anybody? Did you catch anybody on your camera and contact them?
So we did a couple of times. I mean, when we see something out there and if it's a big enough issue to where we need to find out who it is, we just take 5 minutes and go find that particular clip of film and then we'll contact.
Via the the license book?
Yeah, but we maybe called the police 2 times over 5 years because of an issue.
So that probably wasn't the deterrent, it was just the fact that the camera was there.
Just the fact that there's cameras there and there's rules posted.
And that's what Cassandra Ford, who we're working with on this grant, said, that you don't really get to be relief from the prosecution, it's when the cameras go up and the signs are up.
Well, let's get those signs up.
I can't put the signs up without the cameras, and there's the problem, is I don't want to put cameras that aren't working.
I want cameras.
If we're doing real cameras, I mean, like I said, I can get this guy, so the company in Traverse City that I contacted, he suggested just doing one site and seeing how it went, and it would be Elmwood site, and the cost was about $2,500. It's a package of 4 cameras, but he said really, you probably only need 2 because of the angles that they cover was amazing, and he had his crew out there too. Everybody was very excited about it until we found out that there's no internet there, because we have to have the internet to upload pictures. Or the other way is to let it run and then somebody has to come and get the card and upload. So that's a possibility. And Elmwood also has an issue, I'm thinking, probably one of the bigger issues of contractors coming in with their trailers full of stuff. This is the reason why I gave you this sheet here, is, and I don't know if everybody got one of those or not. This, what I did is I figured out, okay, how many residents do we have in the county? How many tons of materials are we collecting, volumes and so forth, and what does that break down to? Can you get some more of these down?
Yes.
Here. So I wanted to see how realistic this was as far as what we're collecting, and our individuals here from our hauling companies probably help break this down a little bit. So if you look down to the red, where it says total tons, all the locations, you'll see the tons that we've collected since 2016. And of course, 2021, those are all italicized there because we're not done with it yet. Then I broke that into how many pounds that is. So in 2019, you can see we collected over 5 million pounds of recyclables. Now, if we go by the households in the county, which is Where's my sheet? Just shy of 15,000 housing units, which is, those are the ones that are getting the recycling fee in the county. So if we assume, okay, 100% recycling, every single housing unit that is getting charged is recycling, that breaks down, if you go over to the year 2020, they would be bringing 321.53 pounds a year. I don't know if that's a high number or not. But in Michigan, the statewide recycling rate right now is about 18%. I pulled this off of a website, and the national recycling rate is 32%. Those are low numbers. So if you look at 35% recycling, you get 918 pounds coming in. And then if you look at 20% recycling rate in the county, that's over 1,600 pounds a year that a household is doing. I don't know how that stacks up. I've never weighed that stuff, but I'm thinking of all the milk jugs and things that I take.
That would be 180 pounds a week.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
and so what are we recycling? Who's recycling? I think we're getting a lot more contractors than we think we are. And so then how fair is that? And who's paying for this program? I mean, I have a lot of questions on that. And
That has to be on the sign too, about commercial.
well, you know, the signs are there. People don't read those signs.
Yeah, but if we're gonna do
A
the camera,
contractor would, somebody that's breaking the rules would realize.
John, were you the one that talked to the contractors in Elmwood?
Yeah, I talked to several of them,
Yeah, and they come there all the time, right?
and they're residents, they run lawn business, big box, little box stores, Traverse City, cardboard coming to Sutton's Bay, because they work in Sutton's. They take the store goods, cardboard, drop it off to Elmwood on their way back home. And at Elmwood in the morning, did the site several times. Those bins would be 50% filled with cardboard, and it was big cardboard. Cedar, similarly. Builders are also using the sites, home builders, regularly.
Yep.
With their trucks pulling up and just loading them up.
So it seemed to me that you're not gonna convince the commercial users not to use it. We need to figure out a way to broaden our fee base, so we include those.
That requires changing state law.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
We could.
Well, it's allowed in the statute, but we didn't do that in this county because we didn't want the commercial involved because of the volumes. We're getting the volumes anyways. You charge them $29 a year for commercial.
Yeah, do that.
yeah, I mean, the bike shop in Sutton's Bay is there, they, said twice a week. There was a florist. I saw boxes that were from a restaurant for sure, because they were Gordon Food Service bulk containers, chopped lettuce, it's not residential.
What did the bike shop say when they were informed they couldn't use it?
It didn't seem that there was any point, it's like, okay.
Well,
I think
we
they're
could
aware of
stop in
it.
there.
Well, it's a service they used to have to pay for, now they feel they're doing it for free.
Oh, well, that's why there's something wrong with the way we're charging.
Well, and I
Because
guess
we're not catching,
my question to everyone is the current arrangement for recycling working? Is that the way we continue in the future with the complaints, the issues, the commercial recycling? Is there another solution?
well,
This is a pretty difficult.
I was writing things down as.
I know there is, but you know what? I'm gonna throw it back at you because
yeah,
we get calls, we get the
Right.
emails. Very few solid waste council members get them, and pretty soon they're gonna go from my office to the county board. And then you're really gonna hear it because
Well-
they're not gonna wanna deal with that and have their constituents upset.
Why don't we start with Cedar with the cameras? And I
I
wonder,
can't put those, all we can do is trail cameras in.
what if it was in a vehicle, parked vehicle with the camera in it?
Does that do nighttime vision?
I see the pictures on the
I
internet.
have no idea.
Who's gonna have a vehicle they can just leave there?
Cedar's kind of like.
Who's gonna have a vehicle they can just leave
It
there?
seems like if you did it a few times and see what you get and see if you can identify who dropped it off and then, I don't.
I'd be willing to try anything for Cedar, because if we found something that was successful and the site if we stopped getting this stuff dumped there.
Right.
I think the board, and I'm just speaking for myself, that I think the board would probably renew again and leave it if people respected that site. So Trudy's, if we put the cameras there and they pulled out, then we still have of the contract, and we still have the cameras to put it in another site. It's not like we would be out the cameras. I think we should try something. Trudy's absolutely right. I know I hear a lot of it in my household, and I'm gonna call Trudy. I'm like, well, just please be nice to Trudy. It's not her fault, you know? I know, but we're tired. So I'm like, I know what calls are getting because, so, you know, that's the thing. People, the problem is we've got these few that are gonna ruin it. So it's a good question. Are we gonna have sites in this county? Because if Cedar pulls out, a lot of the public is gonna scream and holler and fill the courtroom, and they're all gonna want recycling. But there's no solution to it.
Why don't you start with those contractors that you worked with, have them look at Cedar and let's see what can be done. Power's a problem, internet's a problem. Do you need a motion or is this something you can just do?
I could be wrong. I'm not speaking. It's just my opinion of the correspondence in the meetings for Solon with the grants and what they're trying to do with the redoing the park and everything there. I think long-term, they're not going to want it there regardless. Just as far as investing too much money into that particular site, just being realistic. Sure. I'm just being whatever.
Well, if they have garbage pickup, they can always do recycling. I mean, you know, this is a convenient way and it's really cheap in order to get this started because where are you gonna get $29 a year? And people forget that when we did this was kind of supposed to be joint with the townships, kind of policing their own stuff. And it's convenient to come to us than to drive by a guy that's throwing stuff on the ground. But you can't get recycling at your house for $29, and if you want to recycle, these are your choices. Be nice if the county sheriff would go by and give somebody a ticket for littering. If you threw it out on the ground in front of the courthouse, they would. You know, but.
I know the townships just spent $750 on gravel for the turnaround road because of all the traffic, and it just it's worse than a washboard. It's really bad, and people pull up the road and then they'll get an opening, so they'll spin their tires and it's a big dip coming off the road. And so they just spend $750 because they didn't have a choice, because you do have pontoon boats and other boats trying to launch there. But Pat is right, I forgot that piece. So long-term, we are gonna lose that site.
Well, think of a place we could go.
Maple City.
Well, where?
Well, you know, in Sutton's Bay, we're gonna talk about Sutton's Bay, but we do have a road commission, so we kind of already have an industrial area that, if the road commission would allow them, they've got a site in Maple City also.
Yeah.
That's, I knew they
tight.
wouldn't do it.
They're pretty tight. I've looked at, especially the one in Sutton. But in Sutton, well, that's down the road, but in Sutton's Bay, there's sewage site where you could, is a serious place to go. But anyway, it's a serious place to look at. Okay, so Trudy, we think do you need a motion to do this deal, to move it towards Cedar, to do all the research towards Cedar?
No, I can continue down that way, depending on the cost. If I have to, I'll get it in front of the county board. You know, it's not in our budget, it's not something.
When do you tell them they're the priority?
Explain it,
Yeah.
I will, I'll push for it, because we think we need it. If we're gonna have a program, we're
You're
gonna need to do something.
And so tell them that we're on it, I guess.
In the meantime, do you want to look at, doing any other pickup, anything more with our current contract with American Waste at the sites?
More different.
More surveillance, I don't know what you call it, I'm saying surveillance, more pickup and surveillance of the sites so that it's not just when they're getting picked off.
When,
Do you pick up that garbage?
yeah, I mean, if someone drops it off, it's coming back to it. But I was talking earlier that, if you look at like the Antrums, Otsego, Charlotte, White, Benzie, they specifically have one person or agency that visits the sites and cleans up the sites for this type of matter. Gaylord or Otsego has the conservatory program, and same with Antrim. Yes, it costs some money. And with Charlevoix, it's a little different because the county does it, but they have buildings, ironically, they have buildings in every one of the cities. So, East Jordan, Point City, and so forth. And then Benzie, their program's small, and the administrator takes care of all the sites there.
Don't you have contractors? Aren't you the people in charge of the contractors that go to all our recycling sites and clean up?
Say that over again? I mean,
Isn't American Waste the contractor that hires someone to go to our recycling sites?
No, we do not have a contractor there.
What do you recommend? We haven't heard from you. What do because you cover a bigger area than just Leelanau County.
Well, that's why I brought up, Otsego, Antrim, Charlevoix. I mean, they specifically have a group, a program that they go and monitor the sites and they clean up. Because no matter what you do, we could be there today and we might not be back till Wednesday. Someone's gonna come there during the night or the next day, and they always do it every morning. They had someone run to the site, and then they pick up the material and they haul it back and they get rid of it.
And what do you see in terms of signs and cameras?
Antrim County, it's interesting. I step back and listen. It's like, of all counties, Leelanau County has issues. You'd think they wouldn't have the issues, of all, and there's no cameras or at the other sites, there might be a sign, no dumping, but who really reads signs,
Are those primarily government sites or are they?
Same deal you got here.
Yeah.
I sat on Antrim, I was just part of that board.
So it's unique to us and.
What's unique that we have an issue with dropping off the sites,
So they got someone every day going out there?
Yeah.
So that might be part of it too, is they're explaining the rules as they're cleaning it up.
And I know like Otsego, because that's the most recent contract, I mean, they have in their budget X amount over in addition for processing and picking up material of the group. It's a conservatory group that goes out every morning and monitors the sites,
And they're paid.
Yeah, they're paid. They decide to go to a you have to think about it. They're nonprofit groups that the counties are using, as part of the program, So and they are paid, like Otsego, I think, if I recall, they're paid, they are 30 or 35,000 a year for that service,
And how many sites do they have in that town?
Probably about the same size here. Let me see, they have 5 or 6. Let me see, they have 5, 6.
So maybe that, as well as signs and cameras, is the solution.
Then it's so, then it's so interesting. It's either it's always Sun Bay, it's always Cedar. Elmwood is some issues, but not as bad. But like we were at Elmwood, I didn't go out and empty Elmwood Sunday. We're there 7 days a week now because of the line. But then you look at there's no issues over knock on wood, Shabby Town, no. You don't hear much on Empire. You hear some on Glen Arbor, but very little. I haven't heard anything on Glen Arbor this year. Or Northport, so.
But Northport, I thought somebody just said when you did the survey that there was stuff left outside the bins and it was.
Yeah, my staff.
Yeah.
But typically in
It's at every single
the
site.
maintenance people will go by and pick it up.
You see the Northport, with the new site,
They take it.
And Glen Arbor, the same thing, their person that does a lot of picking up.
Yeah.
Maybe a game cam at Solon's site, that was motion sensor that would flash at night. Every time a person got out of the vehicle or walked towards the bin would probably deter a lot too, because they're gonna think it was a picture. Maybe it would take a picture.
Trudy, we should get the signs up and then we can put the cameras up. But the signs are step one.
You want the signs up that say, here's the fine, you're gonna prosecute.
Yes, and don't leave this so that when the cop comes by, the cop can, or the prosecutor
Well, the
could.
prosecuting, I sent that to you some time ago. The prosecuting attorney approved the language that we could use on the signs. So
Let's
we've
make
got
the
that.
signs and put the signs on. What do you think?
We were going to put the signs on the guns.
At Cedar, it was interesting that half the people, or nearly half, that we surveyed, they all said, well, we know there are cameras here. They assumed, and I didn't say no.
Yeah, there is a camera sign, it's an old camera sign, the camera's not gone, but still. Not a bad idea.
Did you say something about sending out a postcard?
Yeah, the postcard will come out, July, August or so.
Right. Should put something on there like, please don't leave stuff.
I wonder if
or
we
we
could
will
get
lose
an
this.
article written in the Enterprise. I wonder if they would cover this issue.
They did a few years ago, it seemed to help for a little bit. Summer is just so much worse, and I don't know if it's because we have more people visiting, or if it's people are cleaning things out, or, just yard sales and whatever, can't get rid of it, so leave it there, somebody will
I
take it. kind
gotta
of
tell
mentality.
you, I got
Some
in,
combination of all.
Yeah, all of it.
I got into a corner of a building I hadn't been in a number of years. I just found like 20-gallon paint cans, so I'm excited for September 30th. That's for I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah.
Okay,
So I have a list of things that I was trying to interject, but they're all kind of wound into what I found out or my observations at the surveying. And one of my questions was, what percentage of our waste do we recycle in Leelanau County? Do we know what our volume is right now of recycled out of our total waste?
Well, on a tonnage report, we could, I guess,
You know how much goes to
Right.
the landfill. You
You're right.
can calculate the difference.
I never calculated it.
That would be a good thing to
Yeah.
know though, because
We-
if
we-
we're aiming to get to 45 and we're way below that, how do we handle that capacity, that increase in volume? That we're so overloaded at Sutton's Bay and Elmwood right now, we need more sites and more bins. Or maybe you start classing our sites like Elmwood and Sutton's Bay are the Class A sites because of their volume. They become fenced with limited hours, 7 AM to 7 PM staffed. Because these people that dump stuff, they know that they're dumping illegally or they wouldn't do it in the dark of night. And that's why we're finding in our surveys, it didn't seem to be any contamination in what they were putting in the bins. Of course, you didn't look through everything they were dumping in the bin, but once in a while we find like, okay, take the lid off this glass jar, don't put those packages that are bubble wrap and paper on the outside, that doesn't go in. Stop somebody from putting a chunk of carpeting in. She knew better. If I wasn't there, it would have been in there. But, and then noticing the ones that were commercial and just thinking that maybe it's a problem with our fee structure, especially on these small businesses, that's the way they handle it, because there's no big communal bin to put their recycling in. And they don't have any place on any site adjacent to their business to do that. Maybe they're renting and their landlord doesn't want to deal with it, so they're stuck. Yes. Oh, when can we tour the facility? I felt like I was speaking as an expert about recycling and we missed that tour because of COVID. And I'm like, what?
Well, let's put it on the agenda. We're still in a closed pattern for visiting the facility.
Oh, okay.
So, maybe we could schedule that for later this fall then.
Yeah, I had a representative from Sutton's Bay Township and somebody from the village who would go with our group, and I thought that would be, it's like Sutton's Bay can't come in and tell me they got a problem and they need to move without being part of the solution.
So let's schedule something for September, October.
The other interesting thing I found, Barrels and Barrels sells a beverage to North Country Grill, and they won't take the containers back. They don't want to handle recycling, and there's a particular product that only comes from them. So is that legitimate? Can they refuse to take back the containers?
As a business,
Yeah,
I suppose they can.
I guess, well, so all of those containers just go in our recycle bins, even though
Probably.
they are a deposit container, which, okay, the state's coming out okay on that. Yeah,
So they're the only ones who sell this product?
that's what Karen said.
What's
Whatever
that
this-
new cherry flavor or something?
Maybe another question you might ask me, like state attorney general, because if they're collecting the 10 cents, I think they have to get back 10 cents.
Well, they don't, but the store collects the 10 cents and gives it to the state, right? And then if they pay the deposit on again, the store gets it back? I'm not sure how that works. Anybody else here?
Most of these stores, because of COVID,
Uh-huh,
aren't taking returnables, so they would fall under that.
yeah. hands
You
it
can't
back.
throw it in the garbage if you're a store, but if they're putting it in our recycle bins, it's probably technically a loophole.
Well, it's recycled as a metal, but the dime gets lost somewhere. Yeah. And when I was doing the survey and asking people how they heard about our household hazardous waste sites, where do you get your information? The postcard mailing was not high on the list. When I said, did you get a postcard from us? I don't think so. So I'm not sure that mailing something to every household reaches people. If we want to encourage more recycling, I think the place to reach people is to stand outside a grocery store and hand out our flyer right there. Because most of the waste is generated from that kind of packaging, and if you get that mentality into the loop, bottles and cans and, cardboard, reach the right people, but if we encourage it, where are we gonna put it? Because we're so full at our two major sites right now. So I see this like, working against ourselves, kind of.
Two quick comments or questions. One is Elmwood, in particular, the cardboard. Most of the people that had a complaint, the bins are too full, cardboard early in the morning. And we did Elmwood about 5, 6, 7 times. It was always the same issue about cardboard. So it's the businesses in the county that are dumping, some from Traverse City. And it includes wineries, 2 wineries admitted they come there because they don't have to rent a bin. And they were dumping boxes after box of bottles. And trying to avoid confrontation, obviously, but they felt it was okay, it's getting recycled. But the cardboard was the biggest issue, be it Cedar or Marks.
And finding people with smaller boxes that didn't bother to flatten.
Right.
And, they just stuff them all in, so I took pictures of that. Yeah, and not while I'm watching, but,
Judy, what else on site issues?
Well, the only thing I think I've heard so far is to continue on and try to get cameras at Cedar. Gonna have a meeting with the superintendent at Sutton Space School coming up. He's mentioned maybe getting that site out of there. I think with the volumes there and Elmwood, we've got contractors really using those sites. And I just cannot believe how many containers are at Sutton's Bay now compared to a few years ago. And they're full constantly.
But there's a flow of cars that is also constant.
Yeah, there is, but I would bet that you've got contractors using it just like Elmwood and these other sites, and they're not paying for it. It increases our costs, it increases our issues.
Signage, we need signage.
We can put the signage up, but there are people that are not gonna read the signs. And it's the same thing with when we do our hazardous waste and electronics. Our contractors told us, we can put signs all the way through this line, we can put those cones up, and you're gonna have somebody coming through here backwards, because they don't read it, and we did. In fact, last collection, I don't know how many cars came through the wrong way, saying, well, I didn't see the signs. Well, all you had to do was just look and see them down the road saying, enter here. I mean, people just don't read, they
Well,
don't
it's
care.
it's true, but my point is if you're a contractor and you know that you're not really supposed to be using the site, you'll see the signage. They're the people that will see the signage. The general people, maybe not, but.
Is there fines or any sort of enforcement to prevent businesses from using it?
No.
And how often did you see it?
So why wouldn't they?
Drive in and drive back out if they saw you there?
A few times.
Uh-huh.
Well, the signage you're talking about doesn't say,
I know.
I'll have to pull it back up again, I don't think it says anything about
Well,
contractors.
it should be on there.
We stopped.
Well, then I've got to revise the signage.
Well, do a separate sign. No, no.
It should say
commercial.
residents only, but they're still gonna
Residential,
consider
not
their
commercial.
residential.
I thought we
I think
already
it
had that
changed
on Ben's. Didn't we, Mark?
I don't know what's on the bins anymore.
It used to.
Oh, I know it does not say, no, it doesn't, it says residential single stream, it doesn't mention anything about contractors. They're not gonna read them.
I know.
You know,
I think if we're having a littering problem, we ought to really consider having some clean box with the things up every day. And that way they're hanging around. If they could do it first thing in the morning, they could discourage it. But you got a litter problem, people are bitching about the litter. Maybe before we get cameras and everything, the first thing to do is get someone out there to clean it up every day.
Is that?
As part of the problem or solution. Clean it up, then put your signs up. Maybe while they're there, that would help discourage things.
If someone's got that time, if it's gonna be $100 a month for internet,
Is
put that towards paying someone to monitor the site.
The current contract with American Waste, if I remember correctly, states that you are to do up to 15 minutes at a site, and you're there, but beyond that, there's a charge.
yeah, I mean, of course, it doesn't even, and you know what, I think it does say that we can even charge for all of our trash, and we've never done that.
Right.
Right, I think we just said, hey, you sent a railroad, pick it up. You know, it's,
You guys are in there early in the morning while the car out still too, so
and
it's hard to see.
they like to go in the sites first thing in the morning, less people, bing, 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 out of here. And Bill, I did just talk to the supervisor. We're gonna go into Suttons Bay, we're gonna change our whole schedule. You know, the reason they wanna go in there early is, most of the time it's safety reasons, to get in there, get out.
Right.
Yeah, they wanna be there at 7, you know, so they're not gonna go into Suttons Bay till 10 o'clock, 3 days a week, and then there's a other couple days that go in at noon.
So you go to Suttons Bay 5 times a week?
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's just, I mean, we're to the point now where you can ignore it, but then you have to spend an hour cleaning up off the ground. You know, Elmwood, we were there, you know, we went to Elmwood Sunday, we're gonna go this Sunday again, if not, it's just so much volume right now.
Which is a good thing.
No, it's a great thing,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
it's still
Well, like I
a-
said.
Yeah.
you know, then it gets back, come September in 3 weeks, or what, 8 weeks, come September, it gets back to normal again.
What about some direction from the Solid Waste Council for staff to continue on with these signs, and then also to work within the confines of our contract with American Waste on additional cleanup at the sites? Mark, are you open to that?
Yeah, I'm open to it, yeah.
So we could try to kick something else into gear yet before your next meeting?
So we have the ability to raise our per household fee from 29 to 35, right?
You can recommend it to the county board, they're the ones that are gonna set it.
But I think, and it pays for just what we're talking about here, either cameras or cleanup.
Right, I didn't put that on your agenda here today. I figured your next meeting, even if we have to move your meeting up, the board will approve their budget in October, second Tuesday, October.
We should do that so that we can cover the cost of cameras, cover the cost of more cleanup.
Yeah,
Those are new, those are additional expenses.
and when I talk to these small contractors about, you know, the fee at $29 once a year per household is a real steal, and they wouldn't mind paying. We just need to figure out a way to add them to the list.
Yeah, but $29 for the volume that they're bringing in.
It's not enough, except that if you use the volume we've got now and you just you had another $29 from every contract, you increase,
Some.
you
You'll get
increase.
more contractors possibly
might.
that'll start me bringing stuff too.
Yeah,
And every one of, from our perspective, every one of the contractors in Leelanau County or Grand Traverse, they have the option if they want a 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 yard recycling toaster. You know, it's relatively cheap. An 8 yard, you can get one $160 a month empty one time a week, and that's an 8 yard, you know, or a 2 yard would be, you know, $75. You know, so,
Or the totes too, right?
or the not on the totes,
Not in Leelanau County,
no.
maybe
So.
down by Cherry Bend or something like that.
Yeah, but it's still, you know, if I get them a 2 yard, I can do it every other week.
Yeah.
It's easier to put the material into a 2 yard than this tote.
Because there's a lot of small businesses that do use it. I mean, maybe they're working out of their house or a small,
oh, yeah.
small business.
So what direction, do you want more direction, do you want?
Well, especially with additional pickup at the sites or cleanup, however we want to call that, I'd like to work with Mark on that. I don't have a cost for you today, but if we can do it within the signed contract already,
Right.
we can move forward on that.
How many times, okay, how many times a week are you doing cedar?
Probably 4 to 5 right now.
So
I don't know the schedule right now, but I know it's, when wintertime, it's 3. And
when
then,
your guy dumps it,
yeah,
he also cleans up.
cleans up.
So it's actually getting cleaned up 4 to 5 times a week. So we're gonna look for 7 days a week?
But the thing is, we could be there, we could be there, let's say Cedar, where they're at 2 o'clock on Friday.
Right.
We might not be back, I don't know the schedule on Cedar anymore, but we might not be back Monday.
It'll be full of junk, you're right,
Well,
I get that.
you know, it's
I'd rather see us catch these bad people, find them $500 a shot, go back into our right recycling fund rather than raise our household fee up.
All right, but the interesting thing is what Andy said with his signage and his fake cameras and some real cameras, and it seemed to have worked.
There was, huh?
I think we need to make a motion for her to get the signs, cameras, and work with American for a starting point.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I guess.
Like to
Say
make
it
a
again,
motion
say it one more time, please.
That we allow Trudy to pursue the signs, the cameras, and work with American within their contract to do additional cleanup at the recycling sites.
Can I have a second for that?
I'll second it,
All right, we have a second. Everybody understand it?
yes.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed? That passed.
I mean, only question though. The Leland site, we almost got our truck stuck today. When we started sending our truck to get unstuck, and then they come out of Traverse City, it's a $500 tow bill.
So you were stuck in the mud?
No, stuck in the sand. We just got out because what's happening, that site that wasn't properly, in the wintertime, it's fine, 'cause it's frozen. Now it's dry in it's beach sand, the base is coming out. So,
Some maintenance required with some gravel. That's a temporary site, correct?
there we go,
It's supposed to be a temporary site and it was supposed to be gone this summer.
in May. And then the other thing, this is what's gonna happen up in Leland now. We were there, we only can empty 2 of the 4 containers because of all the cars that are there. You know, I mean, it's great that they did, so this is what's gonna happen. The 2 sites are full,
People are gonna throw stuff on the ground.
they're throwing it on the ground. We can't service it because
Stand, pull them out of there.
no, I mean, it's either that or we're gonna have to put some money and gravel in there. You know, it's just, I mean, it's a sinkhole now. You know,
Well, that might be your call. You're gonna have to decide if it's no longer usable because of cars parked around it.
right,
Because of the sand, maybe those bins should go to Sutton's Bay until fall comes and we can go back to that. Pop Road is one, they are slow walking. I mean,
So how should I pursue that then? Who do I send the email or letter to? That we're no longer to service the township due to cars, da, da, da. Then all of a sudden we're gonna have this big, Patricia's going to say, Mark, what can we do here? I'm just telling that.
I understand that, but if that is the situation that, and it isn't valid, that the cars are parked around it, so you're missing 2 bins, and that, the sand is by the others, you might get your truck stuck,
Well, we will get it stuck.
then they shouldn't be, you're gonna have to move them. You're gonna have to put them at Sutton, but we need the bins, you're gonna have to move them over to Sutton's Bay.
All right.
Which actually, Cedar and Sutton's Bay are the two. When we did the surveys, we got a lot of Leland Township people at the Cedar site as well.
Oh.
Get a lot
I don't-
of Sutton's Bay, and
I don't think you should put more bins back in Sutton's Bay. One of the things we worked out with the superintendent at the school last year was that we were gonna be reducing the number of containers there. So if you can't service it for, say, safety, you're gonna hit other cars or get stuck, whatever, then it just needs to be pulled.
And we should say, effective this date, we'll give a week notice or so.
Give them a week notice, put a press release to the Enterprise and the Record Eagle, I guess, and if that's the situation, that's the situation, it's gotta happen.
Right, because they were supposed to be out there in May. I remember that. May was gonna be temporary, and I think they were gonna go back in the fall. Weren't they? Or until Pop Road opened.
Or until Pop Road open, which is probably not until next year.
Well, no, Mark, why don't we talk about that after I pull the agreement out and take a look?
Okay, you can call me tomorrow then.
we're gonna
Yeah.
increase volume.
Okay, anything more on site issues that needs to be talked about?
We need to put a sign on this campus. Because this would be a very secure site. You wouldn't have people wandering in the middle of the night, potentially, and dumping here. If we're going to increase the volume of recycling in Leelanau County overall, we need more sites.
Well, we'll have to,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
we've tried to get the site here for 5 years that I know of. And the commissioners are not going to allow that to happen. So to bring it up again, it's like beating a dead horse.
Okay, that is something to think about, talk to Mr. Bonnet and see what he says. Okay, site issues, I'm gonna move on. All right, I'm gonna move on to the proposed budget, proposal for appointment scheduler and online recycling information.
Okay, so in the page numbers, I think I'm off on here.
Yeah, you are a little
Page
bit.
numbers, but if you look at, it's right after the minutes that were approved, the budget. So this is the first swing of the budget. It's been turned in already because it was due like, I don't know, a week and a half ago. The revenue at the top, I left all that alone. That is all filled in by the county. And the one thing I did modify was down where you see the line item says refunds and rebates. Over the right, I bumped that up to 4,000. That's the money that comes back from American Waste each month in the form of a check as they sell materials. So as our volumes go up and they sell, the refund check gets bigger. It ranges between, I'm gonna say $350 and $550 a month, something like that. So we put an estimate in there. Office operating supplies, I bumped that up a little bit. I think that we're gonna need a little bit more money next year for that. And then if you go to the next page, the contractual services with American Waste, I increased that. They have that 2.9% factor that's built in. And then their contract runs from July 1st of one year to June 30th of the next year. So we actually have an overlap. We get half of one contract and then we get half of the other one. So I figure it out and budget it in here. The $5,000 on the next item for contractual miscellaneous services, that would be that online scheduler. So what that is, my staff is very excited about this. It's an online scheduler where people can go online themselves and sign up for hazardous waste and electronics collections. So we take, if you figure we do 450 households at each collection, that's how many appointments we take. And then we get more calls because they were full. And many of these, we have to call them back because they've left us messages on the machine, especially over the weekend. And a lot of them come in the last 2 weeks. So we're probably looking 600-700 calls per collection. And that's a lot of time, so staff can do something else. Now, this allows us to still take phone calls from people who don't want to do that or don't feel comfortable or can't get online. But otherwise, you can be sitting at home and go, oh yeah, that collection's coming up next month, and go in there and you pick. You can look at that and see, oh, there's only 2 slots left at 8 AM. I want one of those, and you can sign up. You can also go back in and take yourself out if you decide, I can't make an appointment. And we'll be able to view it and see and print it out and have our list of people so that we can check them off. So the cost to do that roughly is about $5,000 a year. That will allow us not only to have this online scheduling tool, but on that site, we can put all kinds of information about recycling, what we take, what we don't take, where the sites are at. We can do a map, we can say, you know, contractors are not allowed to use the site, et cetera, et cetera. We could do the tire recycling too. That is a fee. We have to work that out because it has to be tied into our system here so we get the money. But right now, the main thing is the hazardous waste electronics. So I put it in here, unless you guys don't want it in here, this would be for next year.
Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like it would be a net savings.
I talked to Grand Traverse County who uses it and they love it. So it's just so much better. They still do phone calls, but not like they used to.
Okay, great.
And many people we have repeat people. They don't want to hear the whole spiel. They just want their appointment time and okay, see ya. You know, they're done. So they can do this at home.
Set it up.
Okay. Everything else on here stays the same. We've got the electronics recycling, the household hazardous waste recycling. The only other change I made was the operating transfers out. I reduced that to 10,000. That's money that goes back into the general fund for anything that's not covered through this budget as a reimbursement back to the county. So I reduced that down a little bit because our budget is getting tighter each year, and you know, that 5,000 will cover that 5,000 for the online scheduler tool, but also frees up staff time that doesn't have to be used on solid waste. Yeah, we're not gonna hire anybody. $5,000 is a good savings. So that's it for the budget, unless you have some comments or suggestions or anything. And this is what's been presented so far. It's got to run through the county board's meetings.
Where do we put in cameras for monitoring?
I didn't put those in specifically. There is, we have the site lease and maintenance, but that only covers repayments to the actual community. So we probably have to bump that up to the point.
It seems like realistically, with the number of complaints we keep getting, that to respond to those complaints, we have to expend some money for cameras.
Yes.
So we should put it in the budget.
And I don't know what those costs will be yet, but we, like I said, this is the first swipe at this, because the county board will have budget meetings going from now until I think about September or so. So I can still modify this and send a modification over.
Okay. Trudy, should we try and move on to this next part of the meeting of the planning bit? Should we try and abbreviate what we have left and try and get on
Well,
to this?
it's an actual new meeting, so you have to close this meeting out.
Well, should we do that? I mean, we're half an hour, 20 minutes out.
That's up to you. I always just estimate the time that's gonna be used in a meeting. I don't know exactly how long each meeting's gonna last.
Right. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna move us to the next, I'm gonna close this meeting and go on.
Well, you can't, you've gotta be able to go through the rest of the items and public comments and that.
All right, see, if we go into goals, we're gonna sink a lot of time. All right, goals and implementation.
Goals. Well, I can tell you, number one, we're pursuing that, we'll be finishing that up. That's not gonna take long.
So didn't I see somewhere in the grant for the survey that it was supposed to be repeated in the fall to see if we improved? I I saw that.
We're going to send that card out, and then I'm gonna talk with Cassandra on that.
Okay,
And by the way, I don't have the final numbers on the surveys, they're still all being entered, but one of the things I thought was interesting, we'll see how the numbers show up, is my staff came back saying they couldn't believe the number of people who said they did not want curbside recycling.
Yeah.
And they asked them why, and they said, we don't want anything else at the end of the road. We don't want curbside there, we like the containers, we like these sites, that was surprising, but we'll see how the
they
numbers.
realized it was a great value. You couldn't, even if you put all your recycling material in the garbage and had it hauled away, it would cost you much more than just $29 one time a year. They
Yeah,
know it's a deal.
that was interesting to
Yeah.
hear. Okay, the goals, do we wanna go over that?
We're not gonna discuss the green school.
Oh, no, that was Marcia's thing, and she's still
Oh, we
not
don't
here.
like to.
Yeah.
We're on top of it. Agenda, okay.
Two agendas. Okay.
You're frozen.
I'm frozen, I don't quite know what to say about the goals. I mean, I'm looking at the draft page, but
If the list of goals had to do with finishing the grant and then the banning the plastic bottle in the county government, recycling rubber into asphalt and exploring composting. Those were the goals that I saw listed. And
Education, what's an education too?
that was all, I think it was all when I saw, it used to come right in front of them, doesn't it? Right there.
Okay.
well, on the rubber and the asphalt, a lot of research has been done by Michigan Tech, the university up in Houghton, and they also paved some county roads in Livingston County up there in the UP. And they want to do up there because of the frost freeze cycle. So that has been explored. I've proposed it to Jack O'Malley that they should look into using it in Michigan roads, but that doesn't go. He's the chair of the transportation committee, but nothing has happened that I know of. And I proposed it to our state senator, Mr. Vanderwall. He said he would check with Brown Asphalt. I said, I'm not sure they would know anything about it. Anyway, there's not a groundswell with those folks using rubber in asphalt, though it is a way to get rid of a lot of tires. Sounds like we have a lot of tires to get rid of.
So the second item listed on the goals was commissioning, meeting of the commissioners and asking them to eliminate plastic bottles in the governmental center. And that got shut down, of course, because of COVID, because the fountains were taken out of service, so they couldn't use them. But we're back open again now, and as I remember it, we all supported that within a majority. And it seemed like it kind of fits right into the bylaws that were given to us as part of this committee. And it would certainly be a good way to demonstrate that we're kind of setting a good example for the public. Besides telling them to recycle, we should reduce the amount of waste we produce.
So would you like to go to the county board and make that proposal? And in that case, you would be speaking for the count, this board. Because you did pass that.
I put it, the draft is in the minutes. Does anybody?
It's in the packet.
in the packet, yeah, so comments or
Well,
suggested changes?
I can tell you, I'm not going to support it because I don't know how this is going to be policed and who we're going to ask. So if somebody comes to the door carrying a plastic bottle, is somebody going to ask them not to carry this plastic bottle into our campus and please take it back to their car?
I'm not gonna police what they bring in, I'm just saying that as a building campus, you wouldn't, like, how much do you spend to buy plastic bottles of water to hand out?
Comment? The survey I did here 2 years ago with Chet, it was helpful. The greatest amount of plastic bottles usage occurred during meetings when you brought guests in or committees, large bodies of people. That was the issue. It wasn't the issue with the employees or a small number of guests inside. It was the outside entertainment, if you will, and large groups, 50, 200 people downstairs. That was the issue with the bottle of
Okay,
plastic.
well, I was going to go there. So that's very little and very few. You know, we don't buy, the commissioners don't buy that much bottled water.
So there's not a budget item for operating the building on water?
What about courts? The court systems, do they offer water to the juries?
I have no idea, but we can't tell them what to do either. I think they bring in pop. I have seen bills for pop. I know we have a pop machine in the basement, so, you know, you can ask the employees not to buy pop or, you know, they're bringing in what they want to eat. We have more employees than we do anything else, and you can't ask them not to bring in a bottle of water if they want to, or I just don't see this campus as a big problem for bottling.
You talked to John about the survey. What needs to be done. You did a survey.
Right.
Do you like drinking water fountains?
Not really.
So what do you think?
There's something about
Are you saying this
You don't know what shit.
is a waste of time and
Not to
don't
mention they're filthy.
bring this issue
I
up?
talking around with John and see what you guys.
I mean, our water at home
He
goes
has-
osmosis.
Uh,
Don't
right.
drink it.
Right.
I want, wow.
What else did you have on the goals?
The last thing was to continue exploring composting. That's the last item on the list.
That's our guy right there.
That's our guy right there. So Bark did start doing composting in Leelanau County in 2021, right after COVID finished up here.
I didn't.
Yeah, we just started on some restaurants, Northport, a couple in Sutton's Bay, a couple in Cedar, Empire, in Glen Arbor,
And where are you doing it?
several restaurants.
I mean, where are you?
Oh, the composting itself?
Yes.
Barry Crowell's. You met Barry, our favorite composting farmer guy out there in Leelanau County.
Barry?
Kroll, K-R-U-L-L, Kroll's Composting.
So you're taking it there and he's composting it?
Yes, sir. And Pat does a fair amount of composting out there, I think.
Yep.
Mostly organic, straight organic material, so there's no
Oh, you take the berry?
trash out there.
You,
So
at your
you're
place?
doing,
No, I don't do anything with him. I produce my own compost.
you're doing it in Maple City, at your Maple City site?
Mhm.
Awesome.
And any of your restaurants, do you take it to him?
No, contamination rates are still too high with us, so we're picking through it and managing it over there at Kroll's Composting at this time.
All right,
And he figured out his issues he was having there, is he all up to code now and all of that?
Yep, he's been cited by DEQ, so not cited, but his site has been checked by DEQ.
Qualified by
Qualified, yep,
His plan is cited now.
correct.
Right, that's the official word.
As opposed to getting cited.
Yeah, getting cited.
Right, good.
Yeah, I haven't heard any rumblings about that, but it's a constant maintenance thing.
So do you take yard brush?
Mhm.
They keep dumping it on my farm. I got 2 places people are dumping their yard junk.
Yeah, we take leaves and grass clippings and that goes in our compost pile. And then the brush and logs and stumps all go in a different pile and then that gets ground up and taken to the power plant.
I need a trail cam. I'm gonna catch him. Let me get him.
And you need a sign there directing them.
I asked him, he's like, I don't have a sign on my farm.
Well,
I know you are, but
Leaves
it's
and
so
grass, you know, like
So
Leaves and grass
is that
clips,
just a
no.
2021
The
goals?
brush I was,
So,
but
I'm
with
trying to move
the
this
amount
a
of
little
with
bit quickly.
COVID and girls working at home, I just gave the fee.
Committee reports,
It was $3 a
we
yard.
have anything in committee
$3?
reports?
Mm.
Okay, so
That's fair.
communication,
Yeah.
correspondence, the copy of revenue and expense sheets.
This is just to show you where we're at right now with the current budget.
Yep, and public comments, Colleen has left, she was in public. Staff comments at this point,
Nope, nothing further.
member comments at this point, chair's comments.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adjournment. Support.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, people, we are gonna do this planning bit next.
Yes.
Is everyone involved?
I think we have to have it here.
Just yes, we get this question every meeting. You are all on the same committee.
Okay, we're gonna roll, we're gonna try and do this as quickly as possible.
Don't leave.
I know that that's the question.
You have to switch, I just gotta continue on.
We're just gonna continue.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
there's no public comments, staff comments right at the moment.
No, I'll wait till we get down to it.
All right, consideration of the agenda. Get a motion,
So I move that we accept the agenda as written.
support, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, the consideration of the January 11 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Support. Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? Unfinished business, there's nothing under unfinished business. We're going to new business, discussion of the amendment to the solid waste plan.
All right.
Where are we at on that?
So I agree that it should be a letter attachment per the one amendment that was made back when I think Gene Wachowski started that. It's just a very odd list of things that need changing or correcting in the plan, because if you try to rewrite the whole plan, it's a major task.
And if I remember right, what we're citing is the letter, she was the chair at the time. Those were the corrections that are already made in the plan.
Okay,
So those are already in there.
so they were incorporated in the plan.
Yes, it had to be incorporated in the plan that way before the state would approve them.
All right,
So where we are at right now, this thing is kind of a moving target for me. Every time I think I got it figured out, something else comes along. I had a discussion with Christine Miller from the state a couple months ago about this whole amendment to the plan. So I'm gonna kind of summarize for you what she said. There are some things in there that we can take out, such as like Ken's facility. It's not even in our county. We don't have to mention that. If there was something that existed in our county and is no longer operating, we can leave it in our plan or take it out. Reciprocal agreements, this is the biggest thing, is does our plan require us to have reciprocal agreements? I don't believe we wrote it that way, but that's what we did. So we could remove the reciprocal agreements from the plan. These are the agreements that we have between Leelanau County and other counties saying if we don't have a landfill anymore, we can take our waste to you and vice versa.
We don't have to do that anymore.
We can take those out.
Okay.
So here's what I don't really want to say it was her suggestion, but in talking with her, I think this is the suggestion I'm going to bring forward to you. The state is moving towards doing what they're calling the Materials Management Plan, MMP. And they are going to take out import and export tables, all right? So we're no longer going to worry about that. And they're going to remove the import and export in the plans. So what we could do instead is work with the facilities, not the counties. We work with the actual facilities in the area that we want, and we put in agreements with those facilities, basically stating we will allow waste to go to your facility based on you meeting X, Y, and Z. And we can do that the other way as well. There may be other places, other facilities that want to use the facility in Leelanau County based on certain conditions. The only time we really can put together these types of agreements with other facilities and have any leveraging is when we're putting this plan together, or there's a new facility that wants to be sited somewhere and wants to put this agreement in place.
Okay, so we would talk about landfill. So we would have Glenn's landfill and we would have the landfill in Waters.
Well, you could pick whatever you want. So on page 5 of this second packet, you'll see this little map.
Correct.
And I had actually, I spoke with Jim, or Jim got back to me, I can't remember if I spoke with Mark on this. This was months ago, stating, if we were gonna do this, what's the counties we should look at? What makes sense? And basically that circled area is based on the feedback I got back of, you know, the counties that are in that area. You guys go ahead and correct me if you have any other suggestions or feel that that's really not adequate. So for instance, are we gonna put together an agreement down in Wayne and Oakland? No, why would we? But we may target these areas, these facilities that are within that area.
And in that area, we're talking landfills. We also have recycling, but that would be, we're the big, I mean, that's in Grand Traverse County.
You know, talk facilities, landfills, or any transfer facilities.
So is contingency export recycling stuff that's being shipped out to be recycled? Or are they, what is it, what did you explain to me?
This is to amend the solid waste management.
No, I
plan.
mean, what do these mean? Like, what is contingency import?
Oh, okay, gotcha. So the primary import means that another county has been cited in our plan as that we are their primary. They don't have landfill most likely, or, you know, maybe not even a transfer station. So we are going to import from them. And then, same thing on an export, who is our primary. Now, the contingency is based on someone's landfill being shut down, or they've met capacity, or whatever other reason is that we're either gonna import or we're gonna export based on some contingencies. And what Christine Miller at the state said is that there is legislation coming through which would remove that whole import-export. And so if we amend our plan and get rid of that, and instead focus on agreements with facilities, then if that legislation comes through, we're still gonna be okay with our plan. Otherwise, if we keep, it's up to us, if we keep the import-export and they change this law, we're gonna be doing this over again.
What if they don't approve it?
If they don't approve what we.
If they don't pass the legislation?
We can still do it that way. We can still do it as agreements with facilities.
Facilities instead of county.
Yeah, she said we have to look at our plan and state, did our plan require that we do these reciprocal agreements with other counties and have import-export?
Okay.
I say that's logical
So-
thing to do. Let's do it that way.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea. I wanted to see what you guys thought about it. I mean, this is gonna take some work because, and I've already talked with our attorney about it, Cole Stoker and Koski, the county's attorney. They are very familiar with what's going on with the plans and the amendments, and they've done these before. And what they're telling me is that we have to have our solid waste ordinance in place, which we do. But if you look at that ordinance, it was really just based on us collecting a fee at the landfill many years ago, which we stopped doing. We were doing it for our recycling program. So it's not written very well. So we need the solid waste ordinance. We need agreements with these facilities, and then a licensing procedure, permit process, kind of like Grand Traverse County does with their facilities. So it's not going to be real fast, but our attorneys can help us because they already have many of these documents from other counties. And if you want to go in that direction, that's what you can do.
And you're talking not just landfills, you're talking recycling facilities,
No, it could be transfer stations or.
but not recycling facilities. That's not, you know,
I
part
don't-
of this.
Just transfers and landfills, right, Jim?
This is the first time I've heard
Yeah,
that you could get away from the county solid waste plans.
Right.
I
Well,
mean,
if
haven't.
legislation passes,
Well, yeah, but it hasn't.
right?
They've been amending the solid waste plans for 20 years. So this is a new one on me that we could do that and it would be okay with the state at this time.
Oh,
You
I
mean
don't
for
have-
the,
I don't
for
know
the
much
agreements with the facilities? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, as far as I know, the state requires you to have a county plan showing where your waste is going to go and do the reciprocal. Not, you don't have to do reciprocals, you have to either primary or contingency. And I didn't know about, like, for example, just go and make an agreement with GFL at Wexford.
No, let me correct
Maybe
myself. We are still gonna have a plan, and we're still going to amend it.
And you're still gonna say it can go, that's a primary site.
We're not gonna have import, export, if this is the way it's, the planning committee wants to go, is we would do agreements between the facilities. So instead of listing counties, we would list the facilities.
Mhm.
We would have our agreements with them, spelling out the terms, but those agreements don't go in the plan, is what I was told. We keep those out of the plan. So we still have a plan, we amend it without import, export, but specifically with facilities.
Well, that's the part I meant, is I didn't know that the state had allowed, because the whole point was showing capacity. In other words, that if Benzie County doesn't have a landfill, it has to designate where its waste goes. And that was what the whole naming of the counties for import, export was about. And if they've changed it, yeah, it makes life easier. It was a new one on me. So if it's passing, that would be great.
So do we have to wait for that bill to become law, for it to be passed before we can?
Here was the bottom line of what Christine said, is can we live with our current plan for about 4 more years? Because that's probably how long.
it's been 2 already.
Or not.
It's 20.
Oh, right.
We could fix what we want to do for now and work on the mechanisms, which would be update that ordinance and the hauler licenses prior to the materials management plan.
All right.
Otherwise, we leave it alone and we tell them again that we're not gonna mess with the plan at this time.
Give me an example of what you mean by ordinance.
We have a solid waste ordinance
And
in
it
place that the
says?
county adopted years ago. It spells out with this plan, you have to have the ordinance, but our ordinance really focused more on putting a fee in place that we collected.
Okay, so we don't do, what about our taxing fee of the per household?
That's totally separate from this.
That's totally separate?
Right. So as an example for you, right now, with our plan, any waste that is going out of this county to someplace not identified in our plan is illegal and we should be acting on it.
But we're not going to.
Well, according to the plan, we're supposed to. So are we going to
We're gonna
go
change.
down, are we going to continue down that path or are we going to change this plan?
We have to
That's
change our
why we
plan.
have to change it, right? That's what we're doing. We're working on it.
Yeah.
That's our answer. We're working on it.
We're-
So do you guys like the idea of working towards agreements with the facilities?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so then what I could do is get back with corporate counsel and tell them that's the way we want to go. Have them start working on this ordinance and potential agreements with facilities.
So how many landfills are in this circled area? Do we have to talk to each one or transfer station and say, we need an agreement with you, or are we gonna only pick a few?
We can offer the agreement, they don't have to sign it.
Well, I get it, but I mean,
I didn't print out that map, there is a map that is on the state website, maybe you guys know off the top of your head how many are in that area. There's a map that shows them.
Do we need to go to them all, or could we do Glenn's, the one in Waters?
So when we did this, when Trudy asked me my opinion, without knowing this new twist to things, the point was, you're liable for your garbage. The county is liable for its garbage. By saying it can go everywhere in the state, it might help limit some of that. If you say all your garbage has to go here, and that it was a county landfill and they went bankrupt, they go after you. So by saying it can go everywhere, it's kind of, you're not directing your trash to any one facility. By doing agreements, you probably have to put verbiage in there that says that they hold you harmless or something.
So we should look for every facility in the circled area.
It's not gonna help me. No, that's why you might as well open it up to the state. This is just gonna hurt Glenn's. Because, you know, the only
Business
real,
for your business.
well, the only real place I can get business from is Benzie and Grand Traverse and a little bit of and us. But I'm just saying is, you know, the advantage to the sites in the center of the state, I have a lake. There's nothing I can pull to the west.
Right.
There's no volume. But if you're in the center of the state, my facility and waters can't take from Leelanau.
It can?
No,
Why not?
because I'm not on your plan.
Oh,
Okay.
on the amendment, it can.
Well, if we put it on the amendment, but I have a landfill at Glenn's. If I didn't have Glenn's.
Oh, right.
Then it would be a benefit to watch. It would be a benefit to Wexford. It won't be a benefit to me because I'm not gonna pull garbage from, maybe I could get some from Wexford, but probably not.
But we should have an agreement with water.
Sure you
as well as
should.
Glenn's. Yeah,
That's why I made that big circle.
okay.
But if you're asking, does it help me at Glenn's landfill? No, it doesn't. Does it help the county? Hell, yes, it helps the county.
It's a backup plan.
You should have all the options you can have.
So we should go to every facility, transfer station and landfill in this big circled area and.
If
try
it's
and
as
make
simple
it-
as you drawing an agreement and having them sign it, yes, that would be the answer.
Okay,
If you did a boilerplate, here's what you can take our garbage, you have to agree to these terms. Just
and,
don't make it so complicated, nobody will agree.
Or,
but why doesn't this cover recycling processing? Because that is getting to be a big chunk of our waste.
Solid waste,
not regulated by 115, right?
it's about disposal, it's not about recycling when you
Well,
look at 150.
Recycling is disposal, is it not? I mean,
No, you're reusing it.
so it just falls on, so it's no longer
The waste that comes from a recycling facility would fall under your thing. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, but the way 115 reads, I don't think recycling,
No.
you could take recycling to Emmett County, whether it's in your plan or not, right?
Right, we can take recycling from wherever in Michigan like we do.
Whatever,
We take it
on the
from-
street market. Recycling's like open.
I get it, but Leelanau County it's processed by the one in Grand Traverse County.
Well, you can have agreements for whatever you want if you want them.
But
I'm just saying the state that doesn't
we have that because it is waste that is being taken from Leelanau County, though you're processing it and reselling it instead of putting it in a landfill. Doesn't that need to be part of our plan?
But I don't think it's regulated under the plan. That's a good question.
It's not a bad idea. I'm just, like you said, I don't know if that's the regulated.
Well, if it doesn't, I mean, I'm not saying we gotta do it, but it doesn't make sense that it's not part of a solid waste plan. I don't, because solid waste from Leelanau County goes through your MRF and.
Well, right now, their MRF is on our plan. I mean, Grand Traverse.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah, Grand, right.
Okay.
But when they take our waste, what they don't recycle should come back to Leelanau.
Okay,
For disposal of that.
okay, so if that is gonna be part of our plan, then we should say to Emma, we want to use your facility too, whether they're gonna say yay or nay.
Well, that's not likely that they would come over here. It's a long haul.
I get that, but it seems.
Yes, you should have everything. I mean, the short answer is sign them all up if you've got the time.
And we should
Even
sign up.
though technically you get over 100 miles from somewhere, there's not much point to it.
But should we be signing up MRFs, processors
Sure.
for this plan?
Why not?
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. There you go, Judy, that's what we think.
But there's only gonna be what, six or seven landfills on here, Jim?
Yeah.
Because you have Sheboygan, MOA, Emmett.
What's the origin, Mark and Jim? What's the origin of that process? I guess I just don't understand why it's even in the.
So in the 70s, the state decided every county has to account for where they're gonna dispose of their garbage. And the 115 rules and the solid waste planning all developed on that. So if you didn't have a landfill and couldn't figure out where your garbage is gonna go, someone could come in and put a landfill in your county. So all these counties said, okay, Glenn's landfill is here, Benzie doesn't have a landfill. The counties had to develop a plan for for where their garbage went in conjunction with all the other counties in the state and built these solid waste plans. They had to estimate the recycling, the populations. Here's what they're going to do to handle their garbage. Because part of the 115 rules, I think, stipulated that we had to have planning in place. And it was like in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Pretty damn close.
okay, so we.
So we
Randy's
knew it
good
wasn't
there.
gonna go on a ship and be shipped out into Lake Michigan or, because who knows where it was gonna go.
Who knows what they were doing back then? That's 50 years ago.
Crazy time.
Okay, do we need to consider composting facilities? Does that need to be considered? I mean, if we're pushing this, if this is a plan that's gonna sit around for 20 years, do we need to start, because in 20 years, maybe composting will be a lot bigger than it is now. Do they need to be identified? Do we need to have agreements with the composting facilities in this entirely circled area?
So like Jim was saying, the state was using this as a way to protect the county, because the county said, make sure that they had some
Yeah, I understand
some
how.
accountability of where their trash was going, so it didn't just wind up going everywhere.
Right.
So I don't know if we need to start getting into the woods about trying to get Barry Crowell's as a,
You need to find out what the state's gonna require you to do to satisfy the
That's true,
state.
but we're composting to become a
Amend the plan.
leg of the stool and really be taking a big chunk. Okay, amend the plan, that's the plan, that's how you'd say it, amend the plan.
Well, no, I don't have an answer because I think this is a pretty big rabbit hole. And I think whatever the state requires us to do that makes the county in a better place, we should do that. I don't know if there's enough composting out there.
Okay,
There's, what,
right, I get that. Okay, so if the state doesn't say to us, you have to identify composting sites, let's not do it.
They already do.
They already do?
The state requires you to be, anything over 200 yards, you have to be registered with Eagle.
Okay, all right.
so we could just simply put, we could use registered composting facilities.
so I have a
Sure.
question for Trudy. Trudy, you had a conversation with, is it Catherine from the state?
Christine.
Christine. And so is she Eagle or DEQ or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, and we know that they're still working on getting that plan and their litigation, their process, their plan approved through the state. Do you know where they're at on that? Are they, because for us to go through and do a full amendment to our plan, we're gonna have to follow the rules of what they're looking for.
That's gotta be happening in a couple of months, I'm sure.
Wait a minute, they started on it 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Literally, yeah.
it's still several years away,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's Christine Miller, isn't it?
I've been here for quite a few years, and I can't tell you the number of times they told us that they were changing this.
Wait a minute.
Counties waited and waited and waited to amend their plan to do it.
That's why-
We're talking about 115
Well,
passing, the new adapted 115, isn't that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So when that passes, we'll have our roadmap of what we got, right? But that's gonna happen in a few months, don't you think? Or are you thinking?
She's telling me is this new materials management plan is several years away.
115 is passing is several years away?
I'm telling you about the materials management plan, which is going to be the new solid waste management plan.
It's not part of this 150, PA 150.
I don't know whether that specific part is in there or not. I'm telling you what she told me is that we are
Okay.
several years away from them with these new plans.
Fine, that's fine.
So there's two things there. So either this committee is a little bit premature in thinking about how we're gonna amend the plan. But if there's things inside in the plan that we want to amend that's gonna help us make decisions, then I think that we should continue on with this committee and continue making adjustments. But we really don't know what the boilerplate.
The timetable is.
Or the timetable of boilerplate or what the buttons are gonna be. that we have
Well,
to
one
hit.
is gonna be landfills and transfer stations, that's a given. Whether it's recycling processing facilities and composting facilities, that's not exactly. I would.
So it seemed to me, knowing that this materials management plan may change dramatically, we want to do a minimal amount of change in the existing plan. And I thought we were required to do that.
We will be.
So
We're not currently.
I would just, as I think Trudy suggested, we just do a letter, a letter attachment with, page such and such is deleted, take out this name, and just go through it that way. And do a very minimal list, just a list, and that gets attached to the plan, and then we can say we've reviewed it and we're done.
Only it's not that simple.
No. Sorry.
Whatever you do to the plan, once we get through, if you look at the back pages that have this nice flow chart
Yeah.
for you. And by the way, this is the second time we've started this process for the county. It didn't go anywhere when we were started several years ago. Other counties have gone through and amended their plans. So once we decide how the plan is going to look and what the changes are, it goes out to every single township and village in this county. And we have to have 2/3 approval by them before we get it to the county board for their approval. And then once they approve it, it goes to the state for their approval. So it is not a quick system. I
And they're gonna be
mean,
totally.
we're definitely
fine with
looking
this.
at a year, if not longer, because by the time you get it to the communities, some of them want to hear it at one meeting and act on it the next month. So, we've got 14 of them to figure out meeting schedules.
Yeah.
We just assisted a county and literally took us 14 months. And we assisted, yeah. And we assisted. We said, all right, here's our engineer, work through it. 14 months. It's still not done. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just was,
I mean, to get a solid waste plan amended, it's a minimum of a
Oh,
year.
with information to go, right?
Then you got all the township meetings and they only meet one day a month and two. It's crazy.
but we're not to that point. What we're gonna find, we're getting the information, we have to go to the landfill facility and the transfer station facility and get an agreement. Or see if they would be interested in an
But
agreement.
the new 115 might not require that, correct?
Right.
So we'd be wasting our time.
Potentially.
Okay, let's just sit tight and wait for 115 to pass then. That's all we can do. Seems like, only thing makes their, complete sense. Is that right? Yes, that's what we're doing.
What do you think, Trudy?
I think you're making us a mess when you.
Let's make it simple. I mean, really, the big thing
Right
basically is
now,
landfill
let's be
changes,
clear,
right?
Right now, we're not backing up our plan. You have violations of your plan right now. Are you gonna back up your plan, or are you gonna amend your plan?
No.
You're gonna amend your plan, let's go down these steps. It's mainly gonna be staff doing this, I know that already. I'm looking for direction from you. Do you want me to
What's first step?
pursue the agreements with other
Break down the
facilities? If so, I'm gonna talk to
So we're
corporate
looking at
counsel
doing
and
an
say, let's
amendment.
go.
I definitely have a consensus on that. I say yes.
All right,
But you're still gonna have to amend the plan.
I know.
That's gonna take at least a year, if you're
No,
lucky.
We're gonna
amended
be
to
doing
add
some of this
track.
concurrently.
Okay. It's just a lot of work to go through a plan amendment.
okay.
Nothing
But
simple.
First you have to get these agreements. That's part of the amendment. First, that's step one of your amendment, right?
Yes, I know that.
Okay. But then once we have all that, and then we have how we're gonna amendment, then we go to all of our townships. That's a ways off.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Don't start, a year from now, we'll be sitting here saying the same thing.
What else can we be doing concurrently then while you're doing that?
Staff will start doing some of the minor modifications in the plan, which Andy Gill and Tim Bullen had worked on some years ago. We've got some more, I'm sure, because facilities changed and so forth. And it's not, so you're not gonna get a rewrite of the plan like state wants us to do, is put together a list of, on page such and such, we're gonna change this, on page such and such, we're gonna do that.
All right.
That's what we're gonna do.
All right, good. That's good. Okay, perfect. There we go. What a good work.
So we will continue the path of doing agreements with facilities.
All
Is there
right.
anything we can do to assist you in that, assist the staff and make that easier? Do we need to work on verbiage right now?
You need, assist the staff and make it easier, those two don't go together.
least you have staff,
Are you
right?
posting in
Staff.
Minnesota?
Is there anywhere we
What's that?
could get out?
I'm
of the way?
posting this one.
Yeah,
Can we
that's
do right
right.
now?
You
Not
gave
right
me
now. I'm
direction,
calling to
I
see
know
if you
that
get
that's
permitted.
the direction you want to go.
Nah, it's basically just fill out the paperwork.
Really?
All right,
Sorry.
Will you let me know when you do?
Yeah.
And if you need,
Why were you thinking?
needs help, I'd come in.
Okay. It's
Possibly
gonna
we have
take
some
a while
material
before
that
we
can
get
be
some documents
converted.
approved, but
Okay.
Are you looking for a lot of material?
Mhm.
So
Usually
everything
we can
else
convert it
is
to
just,
soil.
FYI for you.
What is it?
Wood.
How we're doing this process.
Okay.
Wood
Some of the questions
sludge,
that are asked,
dry
how we
wood
do it.
sludge,
Okay,
Okay.
fine,
all right.
thank you.
really fine.
Okay, so we
Is it
are
wet?
all the way through communications, done communications and correspondence, would you say?
Yes.
All right, public comments, no public here. Staff want to make another comment? Members, make a comment. Anybody have? David, let's hear it.
I move for adjournment.
Thanks.
Second.